After about a good 6 months of waiting, it's time for another dev post. And this time it's written by Gorbacelli, and there is quite a lot of stuff to go through, so let's get started. The first thing we get is a picture on Twitter. It looks like some sort of post office, which does fit the mailing theme of the update. It's a rather tame teaser, however there is one thing in the room that I noticed, and that is the key under the desk. It's possible that it will be used for opening and closing your bank, which is something that's mentioned later in the dev post. Now we can move on to the dev post itself. There is a lot of good stuff, but unfortunately there is also a worrying sentence later in the dev post. But anyway, the dev post starts with a picture of a player handing a flower to an NPC known as a postie. This basically confirms the vanity and equipment on this picture will be available in-game, so that is something. Other than that, we of course see the NPC holding the mailbag from the previous teaser, which is I guess is a little cool Easter egg. Then Gorba starts off by telling us about how they improved the game with new and only the most interesting features since the Going Dark incident. I guess it's nice to know they're not adding stuff that could be added later, because that would just delay the update further, which no one really wants. And the next part is about splitting the game up into multiple worlds. Now, some of the more obsessed players like me and Julian already knew these struggles, but we didn't know what happened to the actual splitting of the game. Gorbacelli goes on to explain that the past year has been difficult for himself and Spectre Bugs, because the game had a lot of data issues which caused massive obstacles that prevented them from developing the game, and they were apparently also dealing with some family issues at the time, which obviously didn't help. Gorba then explains how these problems have delayed the update significantly, and that the goal of releasing the update in March was a little bit unrealistic, to say the least. Not to mention the so-called small potato updates that Roblox had been releasing for Roblox Studio that didn't help either. Overall, I can understand why Spectre Bugs didn't update us on anything about these issues. I mean, all it will really do is just send the community into panic, thinking that the update is ruined and will never come out. Gorbacelli then lists 5 worlds the Fantastic Frontier universe will have. The Frontier, Red Boy's Nightmare, the Otherworld Tower, and 2 new massive areas. Apparently one of which will be larger than Red Boy's Nightmare and the Frontier combined. It's safe to say that I'm not disappointed when it comes to the amount of content being added. To conclude this chapter, Gorba ends on a good note, revealing that the benefits of splitting up a game are actually pretty good.
Well, firstly, we're now well equipped to finish the game without much worry of errors or disconnections, and development can continue on smoothly in both a working studio and game itself. Each world should run a lot smoother. This is a huge benefit in our minds, as if we went with our original plan to release, mobs will have had to be more scarce and spread out. Now each world can feel more alive and filled with content without fear of slowing down their servers. More players on each server / higher server cap. This still needs to be tested on a large scale and may come after the update's initial release, but it's likely for at least some of the worlds. Players will be more centralized. All the players in your server will also be with you on the Frontier. No more of half the server being in Red Boy's Nightmare or vice versa, and one area feeling rather empty. Splitting the worlds now allows to add new worlds in the future.
While hearing about the massive scale of the update is nice and all, now we are getting to what I consider to be the absolute disaster of a paragraph written by Gorba.
While we still have a lot to go to finish the update, we are feeling ready to get to it. I wish I could tell you how long it would take, but we can't know for sure. As always, being just a team of 2 guys, we have to take our time and manage our resources. We will work hard as always and are determined to get the update out in due time.
Well, if you're not familiar with waiting for the Fantastic Frontier update, this probably looks fine, but for someone like me, the words "we still have a lot to go" is something that tells me it's at least going to be another year, if not 2 to 3 more years of waiting. And while it's sad, it's also understandable. Working on a massive MMORPG as 2 people in a game engine that bugs out all the time is rather time consuming. Anyways, enough talk about the infinite waiting. Let's take a look at the teaser attached to the paragraph. We find ourselves somewhere on the Sky Islands. looking at some plants, which include some beautiful flowers. There also seems to be some kind of small maroon ant in the background with an extended body. I'm not sure if this isn't like an actual monster we can fight or just some sort of collectible, but it does look rather silly. Next up is something a lot of people will probably enjoy, friends list. This feature will keep track of your friends and what world they are in. It will also automatically teleport you to the server your friend is in, instead of joining a random public server. As an example, this will solve the issue when you finish the Otherworld Tower with your friends, where it just teleports you to a random server. When it comes to the new posty NPCs, I think they are an interesting quality of life addition to the game. It offers a lot of tide saving, which can stack up over time. And it doesn't come without a price, which means players that aren't rich will have to make a decision on whether they want to walk to the chest manually or pay a fee to withdraw it from a postie. So they are trying to balance it, but to me it still looks extremely cheap. Also, you have to remember that there's probably gonna be some gold inflation when the update drops, so this is like probably a lot cheaper than you may think. You're also getting save slots for the update. I think this is great because having everything on one account not only feels a lot better, but it also lets more people start over from scratch at the update if they want to. I did see some people on Twitter, both in the past and now, that have been wanting to start over when the update drops. So I think for them it's overall a good feature, and also for other veteran players. And now for what is probably the most popular talking point on the Devpost, starter classes. First, it's important to note that from what info we have gathered, these are not classes, but rather starter packs, so they don't limit your ability to equip items or anything. They're instead there to help the new players get into the game, by letting them choose a playstyle they like and get off to a strong start. I think this is all really good for the game, because one of the biggest problems is the early game. The last thing Gobocelli writes in the Devpost is about early game changes, funnily enough. And this is arguably, like I said before, the most important part of getting more players into Fantastic Frontier. Now, I myself don't care too much about the player count. I'm more of a solo player, but I'll still talk about it. So, the changes are as follows. Mining/crafting changes, combat/equipment rebalancing, early game objectives/dungeons, and redistribution of overworld monsters. Overall, some great changes, and they will definitely make the early game more enjoyable for players that want to fight stuff without sitting 1 hour behind a rock with a wooden crossbow. Like, that's just how the game is right now. And now, for Gorba's final message.
Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate the support as always, and we won't let you down. See you when the time is right and the stars begin to align again.
Okay, so this is somewhat vague. I mean, the devs are clearly trying to say that they have no clue when the update will be out, and that they still have a lot to go. So to me, the won't let you down part seems impossible to reach. And I don't know, maybe it's just a Rick Will reference, I don't know. But that's just my view on it. Let me know what you think about this Devpost in the comments. Do you think the update will come soon, or are you a little more pessimistic like me?